second quarter 2018 results presentation. My name is Rui Casais and I'm the CEO, and with me is, as usual, Stian.
Yep, Stian said hello to you all.
So, as you might have seen already, we have a pretty good second quarter and some exciting news when it comes to our future plans. In fact, this is the most profitable quarter in Funcom's history. We're happy to be able to say that with an EBITDA of $8.3 million. It's a very strong result, of course, fueled by the full launch of CONAN EXILES worldwide and with a PlayStation 4. And CONAN EXILES is the best-selling game in Funcom's history. We had a successful launch in Japan last week together with Spike Chunsoft, and it's overall doing quite well for us. And another big highlight, and something that we're proud to have been working towards, is that we have in total 6 game projects at different stages of development. So we have projects that we have spoken for, that we have had for a long time, being the MMOs, Anarchy Online, Age of Conan, and Secret World Legends. We have, of course, CONAN EXILES that is now in what we call the live operations phase. It has launched. We have done what we wanted to do for that launch, and we will continue developing and updating the game to best engage with the players. We have projects in development. Those are the publishing games that we have spoken about in the past, communicated in the past: Mutant Year Zero, the Petroglyph game, and the Rock Pocket game. We have a co-op shooter game that we are developing in our studio in North Carolina. And we are now at early stages of pre-production of a new Oslo-based single-player Conan game. And we are at the early stages of concepting a open-world multiplayer game in Oslo as well. So this makes 6 game projects, which is the most we've had in Funcom at any point that we can remember in parallel. So it's very exciting for the future. So we're quite happy both with the results of Q2 and with what lies ahead. Going a bit into the financials, I'll pass the word to Stian.
Yeah, and as Rui said, we're very happy to present then the best quarter in Funcom history. We did so last year in Q1 with early access of CONAN EXILES, and then it's good to come back just a bit more than a year after with the best quarter ever again. And we see the revenue was 15.2 million. Most of it is, of course, due to CONAN EXILES. And it's more or less only digital revenue. EBITDA and EBIT are strong, 8.2 and 7. It's both the best in Funcom history. Profit pre-tax is a bit lower than EBIT, and the difference is mainly due to currency. And on the cash, we're strong, 8.3. 18, yeah, sorry, 18. That's a big, that's a big difference.
Forget those 10.
Yeah, 18.3, and the equity is up and debt is down. And there's also, we've shown some calculated tax in the P&L, but that is expected not to be payable due to temporary differences. And that's due to, on the games, tax-wise, they are not capitalized, so all of the cost of the games are expensed when it comes to taxes. Yeah, and then this graph shows then the revenue and EBITDA are higher than in the previous previous quarters, and then the 8.3 is higher than 6.7 of Q1 17, so it's the most profitable quarter. And it also shows, if you look carefully at the graph, that the margins were slightly higher in Q1 last year, and that's partially due to more marketing costs now. We hardly did any marketing on Q1, but now we invest in marketing and made a very successful exit of early access and succeeded where other games have really failed to get the boost out of the early access. We succeeded with that, and
I think that's an important point to underline, is that there was we ourselves were a bit unsure on how much we can expect from a game leaving early access. There had been early access has been limited in how many games have done it. and many games have gone out of early access without making much of a splash. We tried really hard to show the players that the game has improved a lot, and that while there's still things that we need to work on, we wanted to show that this is much closer to the vision that we intended, and we put the marketing dollars behind it to also get that attention. So we did get a good amount of attention that shows in the revenue, but as you said, there was some additional costs. And there's also some investments into the publishing games in here that weren't there last year, right, in Q1.
Definitely, yeah. So in this quarter, with the best or most profitable every quarter, we're also investing a lot in future games, and which was illustrated by those 6 upcoming games that we went through. And here my favorite slide, where we see cash goes up and debt goes down. So debt is next to nothing, and we have the highest cash in the visible recent history on this graph. And then the company is in a completely different situation than 2 years ago, and we have now once again reconfirmed that the turnaround is sound, and that the strategy that we are following makes sense. Also, it says here trade receivables, so 7.5 million. So even though there was significant revenue that we hadn't received at the end of Q2, because typically PC revenue takes 1 month and console revenue takes longer. So that's there will be more incoming cost, and of course there's some costs that hadn't been paid also. For instance, royalty cost. Yeah.
So there's still some cash coming in, but there will be some more cash going out in some expenses that were in theory still Q2 launch expenses that will come in Q3. But there's also some cash that was launch cash that hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is also a very nice graph where we go from minus 10 million in equity a couple of years ago to 42 million now. And as a board member said earlier today, this can bring tears of joy to the eye for an economist. And of course, we're happy to see this graph as just another confirmation that the turnaround has been completed.
I do like graphs that go up, but I have to say that it doesn't bring tears of joy to me. People having fun in the game brings tears of joy. Yeah. Graphs that go up, great. They're good to have, but they're not what.
Well, the different people, different choice, you know.
To each its own. That's okay.
We also have the financially minded board members,
of course, and
they
shareholders, and of course, absolutely. Good. Then a bit of an update on internal projects, and if my voice sounds a bit muffled or if I'm not completely coherent, it's because I have a bit of a cold, so I'm feeling a bit under the weather. Hopefully Stian will pitch in if I say or don't say something I should. I don't know. So CONAN EXILES, as you can see on the picture there's the cover art for the game in Japan, where it's called CONAN Outcasts, as Exile is a J-pop band we were advised to not use the Exiles word there, instead to use CONAN Outcasts. The team has been implementing after launch several quality of life improvements based on player feedback, several optimizations to get a better player experience. So there's been a lot of small and not so small things that make the game overall more solid. And it's part of our focus to really get the game to the state we want it to be completely. We did full localization for Japanese and Korean languages. This because up to launch we had partial localization in Japanese and Korean. We released 2 DLC, 2 downloadable content packs, the Imperial East in late June and Jewel of the West in early August. These are purely cosmetic packs, and that's the post-launch monetization plan for CONAN EXILES is based on cosmetic DLC, so things you can buy that are skins that change the appearance but do not change the power. We feel that this is what gives the players the best experience. If you want to be powerful in CONAN EXILES, you need to play. If you want to look a bit different, maybe a bit cooler, maybe just a bit different, that in a way that doesn't affect power, you can support the continued development of the game by buying one of the DLCs, and it helps keeping servers running, it helps keeping the team doing free updates, and it goes hand in hand with the free updates we do. So we see that we keep the game alive, we keep the game getting better by having this additional monetization. And in Japan, last week, we launched on the 23rd, together with our partner Spike Chunsoft, and we were quite happy to see that we've been the top seller in Japan during the launch week, which is really good. This is for PlayStation 4 only, so this is a PlayStation 4 launch. We've been released on Steam in Japanese since the launch in May. But on PlayStation 4, the game was not available. So the game was available in Europe and North America, but not in Japan. Yes, so we're quite happy with the results from that launch. Going forward on Conan Exiles, the team is working on free updates. The next big one being the pets update. These updates will add things to the game, improve the game. Overall, they will do things that will tighten the game experience, let's call it. They will focus on either retention or acquisition in the sense of attracting new or inactive players, or keeping the existing players happy. So there will be a mix of both. There will be more cosmetic DLCs. How many and how often it's still based on ongoing plans and ongoing community reception. There are also a new dungeon that is planned to come out now with the pets update, a new religion, with a new avatar. So the team is making sure that the game keeps on being developed on at the same time as we put out these cosmetic paid DLCs. On Age of Conan and Secret World Legends, there were a couple of interesting things happening as well. Age of Conan ran its anniversary event during May and June. It's a good event that energizes the players playing the game. There was a new treasure chest. Oh, that was difficult to say. Bloodstained treasure chest was launched in July. It's doing quite well, so players seem to be quite happy about it. And the Age of Conan team is currently running a summer PvP event, which will be active a week more or so. And on Secret World Legends, there was also an anniversary event with the new cache, which is the Secret World loot boxes. And Secret World team is focusing on creating repeatable event-based content, and the next event launches in September. The events are on the MMOs. The old MMOs are a good way to keep the community alive and energize it and bring something interesting while at a relatively low cost, as they are of course games that have been ongoing for a long time. But they are games we keep on developing. We have developers, QA, customer service, so we want to keep operating and developing the games for a long time. So we'll keep on doing things like this. We also do things on Anarchy Online. They are smaller things, and there wasn't any very large event this quarter. So when we have something bigger, we'll talk about it. In terms of future internal games, so there's been the game we've been talking about for a few quarters, which is the cooperative online shooter in North Carolina. That game is now in full production. It uses an IP that we control through heroic signatures that isn't Conan, and the team is almost fully staffed, and they are going on and producing quite well. So we're quite happy to see how that game is progressing. It's quite exciting. It's different because we haven't made a game like that in the past. But it still uses a lot of our strengths and knowledge when it comes to multiplayer game design, and visually, we think it will look quite exciting. So when we can, when the marketing guys think it's the right time to do a reveal, we will do so. For now, we'll keep it under wraps. And in Funcom Oslo, as I said in the beginning, we are doing two things. We are doing a new single-player Conan game. I think the wording here is a bit strange. Yeah, the wording here is a bit strange. But it's a new single-player Conan game where you play as Conan. We don't want to say too much about it because, again, we want to make sure that we maximize the marketing impact when the time is right. It just entered pre-production, so it's early stages. This is not a full-fledged large project. The next, let's call it Exiles size, Conan Exile size project is the next bullet point. So this is a mid-sized, for Funcom, a mid-sized game. It's not a small game, but it's not a Conan Exiles sized game. But it feels the overall strategy that we said, where it's games with 1 to 2 year production cycles and all that. So this leverages the Conan IP, and it's single player, something that we've been wanting to do for a long time in Funcom, but we never felt we had the right opportunity. It's something that we feel the community might be very interested in, the Conan community. It's been many years since there's been a game where you play as Conan. So we're quite excited about this. While we're doing this, we will start the preparations for the next big project. And that's why we say it's in early concepting stage, the next open world multiplayer game. And that will enter pre-production later this year. And pre-production is the kind of stage where you have not a big team, you have a small team, but you're really preparing the foundation, the groundwork for the game. And it is something that we couldn't afford to do on Conan Exiles back in 2015 due to our financial situation at the time. And we were forced to enter into full production pretty much right ahead after Lego minifigures online. And what it causes is that the quality level on especially on technical quality, on bugs and things like that, isn't on Conan Exiles where we would like our games to be. Something we've spoken about in the past. We are doing a big internal push to make sure that our games have a certain quality that they haven't had in the past. And this pre-production period for the next big title in Oslo should allow for a better foundation to build upon. So it will leverage a lot of the learnings and technologies from Conan Exiles, but in a better way, so that when that game launches is at a higher level. Let's put it that way.
And that's something I really like, that we really reuse all the learnings and even tools and methods and assets from Conan Exiles and from our experience before. We see many of the most successful gaming studios do that. For instance, Witcher 3 was even a bigger success than the 2 Witcher games before, just an example. And now we're really getting into a place where we can leverage Conan Exiles and success and make the next games even better and more exciting for the game players at a kind of efficient cost.
This does not mean the next open world multiplayer game we're talking about is Conan Exiles 2. We're not talking about that. But it can be a game that is of the somewhat similar style and not necessarily Conan Exiles 2. We don't know what it is yet internally. Even we are at, like we said, early concepting stage. We also did a pre-production on the Funcom North Carolina game, the cooperative online shooter, a shorter pre-production that we're going to do on this next game. And pre-production is the kind of thing that every game company wants to do, but you need to be able to afford to do it. So we are now in a position where we can take a bit longer to prepare, and by doing so reach a better level of quality in the future. In terms of publishing, Mutant Year Zero was demoed to the press at E3. The first hands-on demo was there, and then last week at Gamescom. We've had a very good reception on both shows. The coverage is very positive. We had over 70 journalists at E3. We had more than 130 at Gamescom. The feedback is pretty much all positive. We were nominated for and received Best of Show awards. So we're quite happy with the reception and the hype around the game from a marketing point of view. We now have a launch date of December 4th. So that's going to be the last launch of the year in Q4. We think the timing will be good. It's just at the time where people are not spending money on the big games because they expect to get them as gifts, so they might spend money on the intermediate-sized games to get a fix before Christmas. So first week of December, we are looking at the launch then, and the team is working in the Bear Dead Ladies. The team is working very hard and making good progress on the game, and we're working on the console port, and it's quite exciting. I played it this week, and then it's really tightening up now. It's good to see. And then the two other publishing projects we've mentioned before, it's a Conan the Barbarian IP game with PETROGLYPH to launch on PC during the first half of next year. And a game we announced, a partnership we announced right before summer vacation, so at the beginning of July, with Rock Pocket Games, a Norwegian company based in Tønsberg, based on a Funcom IP that will launch on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation during the second half of next year. We will have more information about these games when it makes commercial sense. And you hear this a lot from us, but it's important to understand for investors that timing of marketing messages, of announcements, of reveals is very important to get attention. So we want to make sure that to guarantee the commercial success of the game, we carefully choose when to reveal and make sure we have the correct material, the trailers, assets, anything to be news, to not just be under the radar. An important part on this is that this means we have fulfilled our stated goal of 2 publishing games to launch in 2019, which we said from the get-go was a bit ambitious, but I'm happy to see that we managed to secure these 2 projects to launch. And the strategy is, as we said before, that we will continue to have multiple published games per year. So we will be working on finding games for 2020 very soon. So in terms of future, I can talk a bit about this, which is our overall strategy that we've been repeating for a while. Before 2015, we were focusing on internally developed PC games. Then we changed to by adding consoles to it. First with The Park, a small game as an experiment. Then with Conan Exiles on Xbox and Conan Exiles on PlayStation this year. And finally, we added co-development and publishing, which we now have 3 projects, and intellectual property licensing revenue. That is revenue from the Conan games we make, from Mutant Year Zero, and from other games that other developers make, be it on PC, console, or mobile, things we publish or not publish, things like that.
That results in much more frequent launches and more stable cash flows, which of course we like a lot.
Yeah, it's there will always be projects that games that don't end up working as well as we hoped, and there hopefully will be projects that will surprise us positively. So by having more of them, it heavily decreases the risk and makes for a much more predictable business, which is good not just for the investors and owners in the business, but also for the employees and for the gamers, because then we can take the time to deliver better quality because we have a much more secure baseline to work from. Summary, I've been talking a lot, so you can do the summary. I mean, the summary is what we've said.
Yeah, no, it's the best quarter ever. EBITDA of 8.3 million. We're very happy that it's the best-selling game in Funcom history, Conan Exiles. And then, the outlook is very good. We have 6 games coming up that we're very excited about. And some of them are just around the corner. As you know, Mutant, 4th of December. And we have announced time pockets for 2 of them next year, Rock Pocket and PETROGLYPH.
Yep.
And we haven't said exactly when the others will launch, but you know that we use 1 to 2 years on each game. You know, the US co-op has been in development for some time, so it's not so that gives some indication of the range.
And it's important to also say that we also do not want to commit to a time frame until we see more of a game. So in the early stages of making a game, of course we have a timeline, of course we have a plan, but we need to make sure that we don't just blindly go to launch on a date and then the game is crap. We need to launch something that is good. So we prefer to be cautious with revealing our internal timeframes. The gaming industry is sometimes unpredictable, and we do have bottlenecks that maybe we didn't. Maybe a key individual gets sick, or maybe there's something that happens. So we prefer to reveal timeframes when we're closer to a release. And the message of a launch date is a very powerful marketing event to bring attention, press event. So the precise date is always something we try to make some noise around and have some material presented and all that. So I know from an investor point of view, everyone wants to know when will these games launch. but we're not ready to talk about them. We instead prefer to show at which stage in production they are. Internal games are 1 to 2 year development cycles, and then we'll review more when we can, when we think it makes sense. So I think that's it, right? Yeah. So now it's question time. While we have the questions things here, I can take a look at what's coming in.
So as usual, you can send to investor@funcom.com on email.
Yeah, you can also ask on the Twitch chat, but if there's a lot of noise there, we might not pick it up. So it's sending an email is always easier. There's a question about saying, I would like to hear about the actual ratio of refunds considering the stated sales numbers. We don't go into details of refunds, chargebacks, different things. Even on different stores, how refunds are calculated are a bit different. Sometimes they're added and removed. We feel we've communicated pretty clearly what the numbers were. And like we've said before, we communicate numbers when we feel they are of an exceptional nature, that they are not all within the range of what's to be expected. We think we've done that for CONAN EXILES, because I assume this question is about CONAN EXILES. And in terms of refunds, we think that's there as well, especially after having revenue figures and knowing that CONAN EXILES is by far the biggest contributor of revenue in Q2. That should be enough information for an informed investor to make a judgment call on whether to invest or not. Which, of course, the answer is yes, you should invest, obviously. Second question: will there be 2 games in development at the same time in the Oslo office? There will be 3. CONAN EXILES is and will continue to be in development. The next Oslo multiplayer open world game will have a small team doing concepting and then pre-production. That's a very small team. And then the CONAN single player game will have let's call it a medium-sized team. There will also be some staffing to accommodate for this, but there will be for sure 2 games, even 3. Another question is on dividends.
Yeah, so our current dividend policy is that we'll use the surplus cash for investment in the company. We see a lot of interesting investment opportunities, and we see a lot of flexibility in having a certain cash balance, because that makes us able to make the best choices for when to launch the games, and also to consider potential M&A opportunities, for instance, as when we acquired IP CONAN and other IPs recently. We might start paying dividends at some point in the future, but our current policy is that we maintain the cash because we have a lot of valuable things to put into use.
Yes, absolutely.
And if some point we're in a different situation and we will change that policy, then it will be communicated accordingly.
Right now we are in investment phase to all these projects, so we feel that is a better return for an investor than or a shareholder than dividends, but that can change. Next question is for you as well.
Yeah, so it's a question about capitalization of investment in Mutant, CONAN EXILES, PETROGLYPH, and Inc. And we do capitalize projects, and typically they are capitalized, most of it, not necessarily 100%, because, for instance, marketing cost isn't capitalized and so on. But we do capitalize projects in development until launch, and then we start to amortize. CONAN EXILES is a bit special because it was launched in early access. So then the amortization started during early access, but also after a game is launched, we can develop further stuff on it, and we can maintain it. So then there's more of a consideration of what's relevant for capitalization and what's maintenance and not capitalized. But
we do capitalize.
Yeah.
So the question is, why don't you capitalize? Well, we do.
Yeah. And that's also reflected in the P&L of Q2.
There's a question about information on pre-orders for Mutant Year Zero. No, there is no information on pre-orders for Mutant Year Zero. When you say the North Carolina co-op game is fully staffed, to what extent were the staff removed from Secret World Legends? There was some staff that moved from Secret World Legends, but we've also had significant new hires in that studio. Significant talent was recruited to boost the knowledge of a shooter type gameplay, in addition to some internal staff. So it's a combination of existing and new staff. Which is, of course, a game launches and then it goes into live operations, and the amount of people in a pre-launch to after launch is different. So that's not normal life cycle of a game.
The next question is on the difference between revenue and net profit. I think it's EBIT and net profit the question alludes to, I would think. And then, if that's the case, then it's a currency fluctuations. There's 1.2 million of net financials is minus 1.2 million. And that's due to currency, and it's due to the US dollar becoming stronger. And that's actually good for us, but because we get a lot of revenue in dollars. But as dollar is also our reporting currency, and we have quite a lot of NOK on in the bank, then they're less worth in US dollar denomination. But it makes sense for us to have Norwegian kroner in the bank because we have quite a lot of cost in Norwegian kroner. So it's a bit of a technicality. It's 1.2 million negative this quarter, and the next quarter it will be different.
Yeah. It's something that I have seen in Funcom quarterlies even before I was in charge. We do get a lot of revenue in USD and Euro, but we have a lot of expenses in kroner. So there's always some exchange rate impact on our quarter reports in periods of high exchange rate fluctuation. So.
And as we have a big balance of NOK now, that will maintain, that will continue to happen. That if the dollar NOK exchange changes a lot, then it will give impact on their net financials.
And it's important to remember, yes, we get a lot of revenue in USD, which we keep in USD, but we also issued issued shares that we got cash for, that came in kroner. So that we kept in a kroner account. So that's why we have a distribution of money in different currencies that we manage going forward. There's a question on how many more DLCs will Conan Exiles get this year. That's still, we're not ready to talk about it. We have a few, but we don't want to commit to the timing. We want to make sure that the quality is where it needs to be. So there will be some. There's a question on which market you are traded the most.
Maybe they mean the stock exchange.
Well, we're only listed in one market.
But people can buy our shares from Sweden, for instance. But at least we have a lot of Swedish investors. But yeah, we're only listed on one stock exchange.
So we only have one stock exchange. So we're traded the most on the one we are. Then there's is that the third question now about how much Conan Exiles has sold, which I will not comment on. It's within the to be expected amounts. Based on the communication we've had. Another question, is NRK Online and Secret World Legends both cash flow positive presently? All our live games are cash flow positive. They turn a profit, they contributed positively to the company, and that's how we operate them. And we develop for them and keep on producing content and encouraging players to play and of course to monetize. But yes, they are cash flow positive. Age of Conan as well, of course.
So we have a team focusing on those 3 live games and optimizing them to give the players to keep them engaged and keep a nice profit. It's not just profitable; it's typically nice margins on those games.
There's a question to clarify what we mean by investment opportunities. This is talking about publishing projects. There's a question about the Conan license, if we are involved in project, a TV series, etc. No, we are focused on the games. Our partner in Cabinet focuses on the non-interactive rights, so he focuses on that part. Of course, we make sure that there's cross-promotion and cross-marketing activities both on the game side and on the non-game side. but we are not involved with it and we don't get revenue from that. How long do we have the Conan IP? 4 games. We have it forever. We own half of it. Or Heroic Signatures is the company that owns the interactive rights for Conan IP, and we own half of Heroic Signatures. Question: will there be a shareholder meeting in Oslo anytime soon? We don't have one planned yet, but we do intend to hold investor meetings regularly. But it's a bandwidth limitation. We're not that many people. Next might be for you.
Yeah, our revenues including royalties to Steam, Microsoft, and Sony.
No, so
net income after payments.
So revenue is what we receive from Steam, Microsoft, and Sony, right?
Yeah. So when analysts or investors want to predict our forecast, and they start out with unit numbers sold, then they need to subtract the share that stores take, which is often 30% in the gaming industry.
Next one is for you as well.
Yeah, explain more about the receivables, $7.5 million. Is this money that will be visible on revenue in Q3, or will it impact cash in Q3?
And the answer
That's
is
a good
cash.
question. Yeah. So when revenue is recognized when the sale happens, as long as we have enough visibility. So some retail revenue or some small third-party internet site that don't manage to document it to us in time will not be recognized revenue. But the 7.5 million is recognized revenue where we haven't received the cash.
It just didn't arrive within the quarter.
Yeah, and that's due to the normal payment schedules. So that will always be the case after a strong period. Or in the strong quarter, we receive some of the cash, but a lot of it comes the next quarter.
And some bills will also have to be paid the next quarter. That's how it works.
Indeed.
Question on PETROGLYPH game. Can you reveal anything? Do you like it? How's it going? How are your communications with the team? That's I'm happy to hear that you're interested and excited about that project. I'm interested and excited about that project, and I can't wait until I can tell you more, but I can't tell you more right now. It's going well. All our 3 publishing games are going well. I like it personally. Communications with the team are great, so we're very happy about it. I know that's not the answer you want, but that's the answer you get. Now question number 20. This is a lot of questions. Will we launch on the stock exchange in Stockholm? Launch is a word that you wouldn't use with a listing, but we assume that we will list on the stock exchange in Stockholm. We do not have any plans to do so at this point in time. We are listed in the Oslo Stock Exchange, and that's what
we understand why the question comes, because there's a lot of gaming interest in Stockholm and lots of games. But we feel we get a lot of that benefit by being listed in Oslo, but still being visible in Sweden. And we've seen that the Swedish investors are pouring in, and we will continue. Well, the share of Swedish
there's a lot of interest.
It's definitely increased.
Absolutely. It's just
Avanza has gone from a few hundred to
more than 2,000, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is being visible, and we have been trying over the last year or so, especially after Stian joined, and we've had a tiny bit more capacity to be visible towards Swedish investors, both on the retail side and on the institutional side, as was made clear by the investment from Swedbank Robur. We will continue to do so, and it is the barrier for a Swedish investor to purchase shares in the Oslo Stock Exchange is quite low. So we feel that the work is more on us to do the IR job than it is a stock exchange question. And I think I'm going to stop with questions very soon. They keep on coming, and I need to stop them at some point. A question about sales number in Japan. We won't comment on that. It's going within expectations.
Which quarter, and then it will not
that's
be
Q3.
So it's
that's
Q3.
Yeah. In terms of revenue, it will clearly be Q3 revenue. Anarchy Online 2, when?
Well, we're glad we got the question, because we always get it.
No, but now it must be a thing, right? It's probably someone is putting it there just because it's a thing. Yeah. Do I need to repeat the answer every time? I would like to see what people think an Anarchy Online 2 game would look like, because I think people would have a lot of different opinions. But I really like the IP and I play the AO a lot, so I'd love to see something in that universe again. And the last question, are you looking for acquisitions? We do not have a strategy in place to do M&A at this point in time. It doesn't mean, of course, that if there's an interesting opportunity, we won't look at it. But we don't have an M&A strategy at this point in time. And I think that's enough for today.
Yeah, thanks for all the questions.
As usual, if you have more questions, feel free to talk to us at investor@funcom.com. And please continue following us and on this journey to now it's 6 ongoing games, all quite exciting, and we hope that everyone will be excited about them when we reveal more. Next one being Mutant, that I expect everyone that is watching this or will watch this will happily pre-order it and purchase it and play it and tell their friends. It's a really exciting twist on the XCOM type of gameplay. It's more of an adventure XCOM, and I know I've been playing it, and I want to play it when it's done to play it through. So,
and it's gone viral. The journalists seem to love it. So of course we hope that the gamers will also love it, and will be reflected in sales. But that's to be seen after 4th of December.
Most importantly, the most important thing is that it's a good game. The results will reflect that.
Yeah, that's what we can control mostly, the good game.
Yeah, that's it. So now I need to find the button I need to push, and have a good evening.